Welcome to Connected Insights. I'm Dan Walker, and I'll be your guide as we dive into the inner workings of Manx Telecom Group. You'll know us as the leading telecoms and infrastructure business on the island. In this podcast, I'm going to go a little deeper into one of our business units, OV, and I'm joined today by Chris McDonald, CEO.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Firstly, let's give our listeners a bit of a background in your career and what brought you into the telecoms and technology industry.
Yeah, I often ponder how I've ended up here. I've always been in tech my whole life. So I started off with a computing degree. Well, I started off writing programs on an old Amstrad for my brother back in a year I won't mention.
Yeah.
So I've always been involved in computers and tech. Started off programming, went to university, did a number of jobs on the islands. I've always been a Manx resident. I've always been here, even though I was born in Australia. My parents, that Manx connection dragged me back here, willingly, I'd say. And it's been great. It's been a great place to be involved in tech, I'd say, over the many years that I've been here. So I've been through a whole bunch of different areas of tech. So everything from development to infrastructure. For a little while was involved with one of Manx Telecom's competitors in the ISP space, Manx back in the day. So it was a bit weird to come and work for what was the enemy at one point. No, it's been really good actually. When I sort of first heard of this opportunity, realised what it was, how it was kind of using the power of the group, but to do something different off islands with a whole bunch of really interesting customers. It sounded like a great way to get into it. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've kind of done a range of kind of roles in that tech space and always been involved in technology and now into telecoms. You know, you've been here a few years now to lead OV, the IoT, let's call it incubator or specialist connectivity provider. What is it about OV specifically that you enjoy?
I think one of the things that I enjoy is, in my career, I've always tried to find something that delivers something a bit more meaningful, I guess. So being able to do connectivity like this, we've done some fantastic projects across the whole world, you know, everything from vending machines, which maybe isn't that impactful, you know, generally, but it's important for some people's lives, all the way to monitoring AIDS breakouts in Africa. So there's been a whole range of interesting projects, and everything between connected cars and EV chargers and solar panels and metering and you name it. You know, if you can connect it and put a SIM card in it these days, it's definitely an area that's sort of get bigger and growing as we go through. So it was really, the opportunity to get involved with the growth sort of sector in a technology space. There was a whole load of new stuff to learn as well, which is one of the things I'm always really keen on. Is, you know, I'd worked on the other side of IoT, sort of deploying agriculture and river monitoring and that sort of sensors, then to work on the connectivity side as to how all that data gets back to where I want it. It was really, really a great opportunity. So I jumped at it.
So it sounds like OV and IoT, a growth engine within the Manx Telecom Group. What'd be really interesting to talk a little bit more around is, you know, what is it that OV delivers for IoT businesses? We talk about metering, we talk about vending machines, connectivity. What is it that OV provide and how is that service underpinned?
So essentially, we provide cellular connectivity to a device, a machine in some way. So whenever anyone asks me what I do, I tell them I sell SIM cards. So I sell SIM cards for machines, though. So what we do is we make the machine connected to essentially the internet, basically, and we provide that cellular backhaul so that the data gets from the machine to wherever it's going. Now, there's a whole bunch of nuance in that. Obviously, it's not the same as making a phone call for a lot of these things. And for the greater degree of these devices, they just need to work wherever they are. That's where we're able to leverage one of the group's biggest assets in terms of all the roaming agreements we have. So one of the big things about OV and its footprint is that we've got coverage in multiple networks in pretty much every single country in the world you can think of, bar a few. And that means that if you take one of our SIMs and you put it in something and you fly it out to I don't know, Uganda or someone like that, it's going to light up. And more likely than not, it's going to have access to a couple of different networks so that when you say it's in a tracking application and it's driving around, you'll still be able to get that connectivity wherever it is. So that's really one of the key pieces. Now, obviously, behind that, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, the core network has to work, the data has to get to the right place. You might want to, a big topic in IoT at the moment is security.
Yep.
So we offer a whole bunch of secure options. So it can go all the way from the SIM back to the customers, the end customers' data centers, completely encrypted, with a whole bunch of security dotted around that, essentially. So there's a standard called IoT Safe, for example, which ensures that sort of SIM to cloud kind of connectivity, and in a very secure way. So these are the sort of areas where they're starting to layer on top of that basic cellular connectivity. Cellular is not the only way to get the data. There's lots of devices use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or LoRaWAN or other things like that. But generally, if you just want it to light up wherever you put it, cellular is going to be your best option. People probably think it's quite expensive because, you're used to paying 20 quid a month or something like that for your mobile phone contract.
Yeah.
IoT is a completely different world. It's very different numbers in there. And some of our connectivity is it's all very competitively priced, shall we say.
So it sounds like within OV, it's a specific commercial model for that IoT space, which is a very exciting emerging topic. We talk about connectivity, and what it sounds to me like is, OV provide that critical, robust connectivity, but on top of that, you layer different products as well, dependent on maybe what your customers need.
Yeah, very much so. So one of the areas that customers will need help with is actually managing their SIM estate. So, you need to be able to provision new devices, you need to take old ones out, you need to see where things are. We've spent about the past 18 months building a brand new connectivity management platform called OV1. A whole bunch of modern APIs that underpin that. And there's a whole bunch of really nice GUI features on top of that allow you to do really modern and cutting edge ways of managing your SIM estate. So whether that's provisioning through it, whether that's getting the call data records for individual SIMs, we can configure rule engines so that if it's in this area, then I want it to do that sort of behavior. There's a whole bunch of clever stuff that we can do within that platform that really helps our customers with their just day-to-day. We want them to be able to concentrate on their core business. Our core business is providing that connectivity in the most simple way possible for them. So anything we can do in terms of giving them additional tooling or platforms or things like that to manage that state for them, that's really where we want to get to.
Fantastic. I mean, you mentioned OV1 there. It feels to be in this IoT space where devices are more and more remote. We talk about vending machines, smart meters. There's not always people on hand to actually analyze the device or change SIMs or, provision a SIM, as you mentioned, for our listeners, switch a SIM on, get it connected.
Yep.
So it sounds like OV1 is adding some real benefit to your business partners by taking away some of the need to kind of maybe send people out to site.
Yeah, it's a lot of pain points, I'd say. It definitely helps address that. And that's one of the things, because we built it in-house, a lot of our competitors, there's a couple of very well-established management platforms in the business, as you can imagine. Because we've got, one of our strengths is we understand, because we're an MNO, because we're an operator, we own the actual connectivity. So we own the roaming agreements. We talk to the other operators to get a rate in a particular country. We manage that connectivity relationship. But that also means we understand all the technical piece behind it as well. So we understand the technical end-to-end connectivity from the SIM all the way back to the cloud, as we've said. So being able to have that expertise in-house and help our customers to simplify some of that so our customers don't need that expertise in-house. One of the really key points. It also gives us options to do things that probably other people can't do. When we look at how we sell to some of our customers, we've got a whole range of integration options. Some will be more suitable for an OEM that just wants to get SIM cards, put them in a device and roll them out. Then we've got ones all the way up to very sophisticated MVNOs or virtual operators who are like us, but they don't have their own network, essentially. They don't have their own home network like we do. We can give them deep integration options into our core that I think other people have struggled to in the past. So we really can cater to the full spectrum of, I guess, IoT connectivity buyers, whether they're a huge tier one global MVNO or whether they're an OEM starting up manufacturing their own devices and just want to get a SIM in it so they can make it work.
So it feels like OV, big benefit being mobile network operator backed by Manx Telecom, but also agile and nimble enough to react to your customers' kind of changing needs.
Yep.
So there's a big incumbent telco that's powering your global connectivity that maybe some of the other, let's call them IoT connectivity aggregators, don't have. So big advantage to kind of partnering with OV.
Yeah, it is. So one of the things that we've sort of done over the past 12 months, I guess, was we identified, it's not going to come as a shock to anyone, but Africa's a big growth market for all sorts of businesses. For us especially, they are, it's like Europe was before it became the European Union. It's very fragmented in terms of each country has its own operator or multiple operators, and roaming agreements between them can be difficult. So again, you need that roaming SIM to be able to go across all the different countries to do the tracking throughout the whole continent or whatever the application is. If you're selling into multiple countries in Africa, you need to be able to have coverage in multiple countries in Africa. And you don't want to have to buy a SIM card for each one. So what we do is we can simplify that now, because we're the operator. We can go direct to those other operators in those countries, have those discussions and say, right, we've got a customer that wants to do ABC, X, Y, Z. What price can you give us? Can we negotiate? How can we bring that down? And because we can then, we can aggregate that together as an operator, that then gives us that buying power to go and improve those rates for our customers as well. So it's a really important, feature of our business, really. It's almost our unfair advantage, I'd say.
It's always good to have an unfair advantage.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it sounds like Africa is a hot topic of conversation. I know you had some of your team out in Cape Town recently at an event speaking to partners and prospects. Do you want to give us a little insight as to what the guys might have been talking about out there?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, Africa's a real big growth market. It's starting to explode in terms of the connectivity out there. There's lots of different applications. Tracking is obviously a very hot one. Metering, some of the technologies and some of the things we've seen rolling out across Europe and the UK, we're now seeing in Africa as well. So we know what those kind of use cases are. We can help our customers understand them and how to deploy those specifically. But yeah, it's a huge market for us. I'm not at all jealous of some of the photos that I saw there whilst I'm stuck back here. The sales team are out in Africa. It's a really great place to do business, though. The people are fantastic, and our coverage. One of the things is we've got our own Manx Telecom profile, but we've also got what we call our Vodafone profile. So we take a profile from Vodafone Netherlands. That allows us to put both profiles on the same SIM card, put that out the door, and we can switch between the two of them essentially, depending on which operators have the best coverage in which countries. So we can mix and match as well between multiple profiles, multiple networks, multiple countries to really give that huge footprint of connectivity wherever people are in the world. And for Africa, obviously, that's as it's evolving quickly and it's emerging fast, that's really important for us.
So I guess OV are delivering a real benefit to their customers by having what the industry would call multi-IMSI, so two separate profiles on your SIM cards. You're almost enabling, let's say, almost always on connectivity, regardless of the agreements that maybe Manx Telecom have.
And because it's through Vodafone as well, we sort of benefit from their buying power, I would say. And wherever Voda has networks in their own country, obviously we can get very good rates on that. The other thing about that multi-IMSI sort of approach, as you said, is a lot of customers or a lot of competitors, have a similar proposition. They may have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 IMSIs, and they can potentially switch between those. We can do it because we've got that core network and the technical capability. We can do that basically seamlessly to our customers. So quite a few of our larger customers really appreciate the fact that we've got those two IMSIs or those two profiles behind that one single facade, essentially. So their end customer doesn't necessarily know if it has to switch or why it switches or anything like that.
That's kind of a real big advantage for your partners. I think a phrase I've heard many times coming out of OV is no connection, no protection. So it sounds like you're certainly giving your customers kind of great connectivity solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really important. And I think the other piece around that is being the MNO, and I know I labour this point, but we can, technologies change. Obviously, everyone's aware of like 3G, 4G, 5G, things like that. There's subtleties in there, though, which are especially important for IoT devices. So one of those is what's called LTM. which is essentially a sort of a subset of 4G almost. But around that, there's a whole bunch of things that enable really low power connectivity options. So, having your phone on constantly connected to 4G might be, it does not good things for your battery life.
Yeah.
That's not ideal in maybe a small IoT device, which you might want to be battery powered or very low power, so it can just sit there and report in once a week or once a day or something like that. So being able to have those low power modes and things like that is really important, because again, we can do our own testing, we can do our own negotiations, and we've got the Vodafone buying power on the other side of it as well, who can do all their side. We've got a really, really wide LTM footprint that enables some of those low power modes specifically for some of those use cases where that's important. And it's not just low power, it's low data consumption and things like that as well. It makes it very, very efficient. It's really good.
Yeah, it sounds like OB have a kind of a suite of connectivity options available dependent on maybe the customer's application, the type of equipment that they go in.
Yeah.
I've heard some really exciting things around the changes in different types of SIM cards, that sometimes you need a different technology because they'll go into something that might get a little bit hotter.
Yeah.
So need better silicon.
Yeah.
So it sounds like OV can cater for kind of all eventualities for IoT connectivity.
Yeah, and you're sort of touching on one there around the different SIM cards. eSIM is something that I guess some people are now starting to, you might see it in your phone, that you've got an eSIM on your phone or something like that. There is an IoT standard for eSIM. Okay. There has been for a little while, and that allows essentially remote provisioning of profile onto a device. An eSIM is essentially a chip which soldered into a device or something like that. And then upon that, it can then take the actual profile. So normally when you buy a SIM card, it's got, it's from a provider, it's from your Max Telecom or whoever. The eSIM can come with that on, but it can then have additional ones loaded onto it through various points of its life cycle. And then also it can be switched between those ones. So that's what the eSIM allows you to do. And because it can be done over the air or through a secondary connection, that allows you to be able to add connectivity onto a device or add a profile or add some capability that wasn't there previously. The existing industrial eSIM standard is pretty well established. We have a platform, as you would imagine, that allows that to work. There is a new standard coming out called SGP32, which is in the final stages of being pulled together by GSMA. And you'll start to see that rolling out, I think, towards the middle of next year, maybe. Probably start of next year, you'll start to see some trials on it. It's been coming a long time. People have been talking about it for a while. I think next year and then the year after will be ready where that starts to ramp up. And that's all around making it easier from a manufacturing and industrial point of view to do things like end-of-line testing and what have you. As we talk about some of the features that the OEMs need, you think, I just need a SIM card in a device. But hang on, if you're manufacturing it in a different country, how do you test it before it goes off? I need connectivity in that country as well then. Well, then you definitely need a roaming SIM. And I need a little bit of data in that country to allow that. So you get things like a grace period or a test allowance and bundles. And we can do all of that for those customers and just make it, essentially a seamless process. And because we've been in this game a little while, we've been doing IoT for a long time. Some of the guys in the team really understand this at a hugely deep level. That helps us understand what our customers are going to need. And because we've got the in-house tech capability, we can build that into the platforms. We can iterate through that quite quickly and hopefully give a really good service to the customers, give them what they want and what they need.
So it sounds like eSIM is kind of the next emerging topic and technology. And it feels to me that, with eSIM, it's going to be even more seamless, easier for OV to actually deliver those, as I keep saying, critical connectivity services.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And eSIM, look, technology moves very quickly, you're aware. eSIM is one thing. We're then going to start to have a look at non-terrestrial networks, as they're known. So you might have seen, I think Starlink very recently said they were opening up connectivity using their satellites for cellular. I think Apple already allows cellular backup in emergencies via satellite. So you'll start to see IoT devices using more and more things like that as well, and that's something that we're going to be involved in going forward too.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like there's lots of exciting technology advancements and changes in how you deliver your connectivity on the horizon. So, Kristen, thanks for your insight.
No problem at all.
Today.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Been exciting to learn a little bit more about OV. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Connected Insights. To learn more about IoT connectivity and OV, give them a follow on LinkedIn or visit their website, worldov.com.